the most famous monster in Greek myth was, in the oldest written version, never turned into a monster at all. She was born one, and the story you know is the newer one. That contradiction is the whole reason we made this video. Because depending on which ancient page you open, Medusa is either a creature who was always a horror or a beautiful woman punished for a crime committed against her. Both are the myth. Only one is the version that went viral 2,000 years ago. And most retellings quietly pick the dramatic one without telling you it's a remix. So here is the honest story, marked line by line, source by source. Start with the oldest surviving text. Around the 700s before Christ, the Greek poet Hesiod writes the Theogony, a family tree of the gods. In it, Medusa is one of three sisters called the Gorgons, daughters of two ancient sea deities. Her two sisters are immortal. Medusa alone is mortal, and Hesiod gives no backstory of a curse, no tragic transformation. In this version, the earliest one we have, she is simply a Gorgon, born that way, dwelling at the edge of the world. There is something worth pausing on here. The Greeks did not picture Medusa as a beautiful woman with a snake hairstyle. In the oldest art and poetry, a Gorgon is grotesque on purpose. A wide, flat face, glaring eyes, a gaping mouth with tusks and a lolling tongue, sometimes a beard. She is meant to be unbearable to look at. The seductive, tragic Medusa we picture today is a much later softening of a face that was originally pure dread. Hesiod adds one more detail that survives into every later version. The sea god Poseidon lay with her in a soft meadow among spring flowers. He states it plainly as a union, with no word for force and no word for a temple. What it actually was, the text does not say. That ambiguity matters. Hold on to it. Now the question the textbooks skip. If the oldest source has no curse and no punished beauty, where does the heartbreaking version come from? It comes from a Roman poet, roughly 700 years later. Around the year 8 after Christ, Ovid writes the Metamorphoses, and he tells a completely different origin. In Ovid, Medusa was once a stunningly beautiful woman, famous above all for her hair. Poseidon, Neptune to the Romans, assaults her inside the temple of the goddess Athena. And then comes the line that has haunted readers ever since. Athena, enraged that her temple was defiled, does not punish the god. She punishes the victim. She turns Medusa's glorious hair into serpents and curses her so that any living thing that meets her gaze turns to stone. That is in the source, but a Roman one, and the only ancient source that tells it this way. So, the victim, not monster reading that floods the internet today. It is real, it is ancient, and it traces almost entirely to Ovid. The born monster Greeks and the cursed beauty Romans are telling two different stories about the same name. And scholars still argue whether Ovid invented the assault and the curse himself, adapted an older lost tradition, or was deliberately reworking the myth as a sharp commentary on power and the injustice of the gods, something Ovid does again and again across his poem. Here is what we should not do. Claim the real Medusa was definitely a wronged woman. That flattens the evidence. The honest position is harder and more interesting. The wronged woman is one ancient version, a powerful one, but not the original and not the only one. Whichever origin you take, the sisters share the same nightmare power. To look upon a Gorgon's face is to be turned instantly to stone. Ancient art ran with this for centuries. The Gorgon's head was carved over doorways, stamped on coins, baked into roof tiles, and painted on shields, not to terrify for fun, but as a guardian. A face so terrible it stopped evil at the threshold. The logic is almost a charm. Fight monstrous with monstrous. Use the thing everyone fears to protect what you love. And later, storytellers leaned hard into the petrifying gaze. In the popular legend that grew up around Perseus, the path to Medusa's lair is lined with the stone figures of men and beasts who came before him and looked too long, a frozen garden of failed heroes. It is a haunting image. Just be aware it is the legend doing what legends do, dramatizing, adding, sharpening, rather than a single fixed line from one ancient text. Then comes the hero, and here the versions converge. A young man named Perseus is sent on what is meant to be a suicide mission. Bring back the head of Medusa. He is helped, and the help is the point. He does not win by strength. He wins because gods equip him. He receives, depending on the telling, winged sandals, a cap of invisibility, a curved blade, and a polished bronze shield, often credited to Hermes and Athena. He approaches her not looking directly at her, but at her reflection in the bronze of his shield, so her gaze cannot petrify him. And while she sleeps, he strikes. This core sequence appears across multiple Greek and Roman accounts. What happens next is strange and beautiful. From Medusa's severed neck spring two offspring fathered earlier by Poseidon, Pegasus, the winged horse, and a warrior named Chrysaor. The monster's death gives birth to wonder. That, again, is from Hesiod, and the head does not stop working when she dies. Perseus uses it as a weapon, turning enemies to stone, and eventually gives it to Athena, who fixes it onto her shield. The face that began the story ends it, mounted on the armor of the very goddess who, in Ovid's version, cursed her. Read that twice. The victim's face becomes the protector's emblem. We can't be sure the ancients felt that irony the way we do, but the detail itself is in the sources. So which Medusa is real? Honestly, all of them. And that is not a dodge. A myth is not a fixed fact you can verify. It is a story retold across 1,000 years, each teller bending it toward their own meaning. The Greeks gave us a primal guardian monster at the world's edge. Ovid gave us a tragedy about power and blame that still feels disturbingly modern. And our own age has taken Ovid's thread and pulled it somewhere the ancients never did. To many people today, Medusa is no longer the villain at all. She is a symbol of survival. The woman who was punished for what was done to her and who became powerful enough that even the gods could not look at her. You will find her face now on jewelry, on tattoos, and on memorials, reclaimed as armor against shame rather than a warning against monsters. That reading is modern. It is not in Hesiod, and it is not quite in Ovid either. But it grew, honestly, out of what Ovid wrote. The clickbait version says Medusa was actually innocent. The real story is bigger. She has been a monster, a victim, a guardian, and a survivor. And you can read every one of those in an actual ancient text if you know which one you're holding. That is what this channel is for. Real myths, marked honestly. What the sources say, what the legends added, and where the experts still argue. New myths, told honestly, every week. So subscribe, and you won't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments, which myth should we tell honestly next? And which version of Medusa hit you hardest?